Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're really getting into the weeds of a tactical operation.
Yeah, we're looking at the challenge of pulling off a manhunt in this kind of, well, post-crisis DC setting, all based on the source material you gave us.
And our mission here is to unpack that. It's not just about reading a log, it's about understanding let's say, the friction, the coordination needed.
Exactly. I mean, the sources show it clearly, players juggling these interconnected, sometimes really frustrating objectives, all in real time.
Makes sense.
And the initial goal, the thing that kicks it all off, activating the scout for this big manhunt.
Okay, and the sources give us a clear starting point for that. It says one of two control points west of the White House.
That's right. Downtown West area, the specific locations mentioned are Toxic Alley and World's End.
Got it. Toxic Alley and World's End. So that's the first tactical hurdle.
And they zeroed in on those pretty quick. Toxic Alley, World's End. The initial thinking, it seems, was hit those two, maybe grab a nearby territory control point too.
Right, like a quick, maybe easier objective nearby.
Yeah, but they actually flagged that themselves. Someone pointed out, and this is interesting, that just hitting a low-level territory control, well, it would seem remarkably low effort for a manhunt.
Huh. So they're already thinking about the difficulty curve. Like, this feels too easy for what's supposed to be a major operation.
Exactly. It's a good tactical instinct, I think. You know, if the game hands you something simple right off the bat, you gotta wonder what's coming next.
Is it a trap, or is the real challenge just around the corner?
Precisely. They're already anticipating friction down the line. It shows experience.
Okay, I like that mindset. But even with the serious planning, there's still room for, well, color. The sources mentioned Commander Godcock.
Oh, yeah. Apparently that came about after someone decided they really needed to change their hat for the operation.
Sometimes the right headgear is crucial for morale, I guess.
You know it. Sets the tone. Anyway, back to the tactics. They pushed into Toxic Alley, deployed a hive.
That's the support skill. Healing or defense.
Yeah, one of those automated things, put it up front. Then dealt with enemies up top. Standard procedure, secure the high ground, control the engagement.
Pretty efficient then. The sources say they cleared both sides of the control very quickly.
Super quick, and bam, that's the first one of two stout steps ticked off. Just like that.
Which, going back to their earlier suspicion, probably just made them more wary, right?
Absolutely. If Phase 1 takes minutes, Phase 2 is probably designed to be a roadblock, something tedious or complicated.
Designed to slow them down, create problems.
And problems arrived.
Right.
The next step was disrupt enemy supply chains. Needed two of those.
Okay, supply chains. And they initially thought they had to do it in the West End, near where they were.
Yeah, that was the first instinct. Keep it local. But then they realized, nope, it could be done anywhere, which actually makes it harder in a way.
How so? More ground to cover.
Exactly. Now you're not just clearing an area, you're hunting for something specific across a much larger zone. It becomes a logistical puzzle.
Right. And these weren't static targets, were they? Resource convoys.
Yeah, resource convoys. And the sources call them fleeting. Very hard to track down.
So this section details that chase. Through Foggy Bottom, it looks like.
They were booking it, ignored a resource node, a gnat mine, they called it. Probably natural materials or something.
Didn't stop for loot, just went straight for the convoy icon on the map. Speed was key.
Definitely. But then, surprise, the hostiles weren't just in the convoy vehicles. They came out of the ground, popped up from a sewer.
Whoa. Okay,
Right.
So it's not just a vehicle ambush. It's an urban ambush scenario.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
From unexpected directions.
Right. Changes the dynamic instantly. You got to react fast.
But the real frustration, it seems, wasn't even the sewer ambush. It was the game itself, the credit system.
Yeah, that was the kicker. They successfully took down the convoy, but one player didn't get credit for it, the one of two needed, until way later than everyone else.
Ah, the server lag, or just how the game registers completion. That must have been infuriating.
Totally. Led to that comment. It took forever. It wasn't the fight, it was the waiting for the check mark.
That's a crucial piece of intel for anyone trying this. It's not just about skill, it's about patience with the system's quirks.
Absolutely. You have to factor in potential delays, or you'll just waste time chasing things that might not even register properly.
So while they're stuck waiting for this convoy credit, they pivot to something else, an admin task.
Sort of, yeah. A side objective popped up. The campus vendor is running low on weapons and need a resupply.
Okay, so they need to sell weapons to this vendor, 15 of them.
Yep. Which meant they had to actually get 15 spare weapons first. Started opening caches, loot boxes, basically.
Standard stuff. But then there was a snag. Something about sharing gear.
Right. One player bought a pistol, maybe to help out, but they couldn't just hand it over directly. System limitation.
So what did they do?
Had to use the old workaround. The player dropped what they called a pooped gun, just jargon for dropping unwanted gear on the ground.
So the other player could pick it up and sell it. A bit clunky.
Very. All this inventory juggling happening while, according to the source, they're listening to some weird, uncategorizable jazz folk music at the settlement.
Huh. And watching really bad dancers, apparently.
And ladies coming up
Yeah.
just adds this layer of mundane absurdity to the whole high-stakes operation.
The contrast is pretty funny. Intense manhunt punctuated by bad dancing and inventory management.
So eventually, that second supply chain disruption did register. They took another control point, the fourth one, and that finally completed the scout manhunt.
Confirming their suspicion then. The supply chains were the real bottleneck. Annoying to track down. Very fleeting.
Exactly. It wasn't about difficulty of combat, but the difficulty of finding and getting credit for these specific mobile targets.
Okay, so scout manhunt done. What's next? They immediately shift focus.
Right. Straight on to the big stuff.
Yeah.
2 major missions, Jefferson Plaza and Roosevelt Island.
Roosevelt Island. Isn't that the outcast stronghold?
That's the one. So yeah, serious escalation from chasing convoys. This is assault territory.
Let's break down Jefferson Plaza first. The goal there was stopping chemical weapons transport via the metro.
Right. And the key target was a specific individual, Terminate Mr. Wilson, located near the mall entrance.
Okay, so a targeted elimination within a larger mission context. How'd they approach it? Any specific tactics mentioned?
Oh, yeah. Very specific. They coordinated using the spiced up skill.
We'll have to dig into that skill later. What did it let them do?
Seems like a performance enhancer. They combined it with shock rounds, ammo that stuns enemies.
So activate spiced up, hit Wilson with shock rounds to lock him down, then finish him off.
Pretty much. The source has a rather colorful description. Wilson got jizzed on, and that was the end. Probably referring to the effect of the shock ammo or some other status effect.
Right, okay. So effective if graphically described. But it wasn't all smooth sailing, was it? Mention of grenades.
No, definitely not smooth. One player apparently got hammered by 4 grenades almost simultaneously in what they called a mustard gas file.
Sounds like an area denial effect, some kind of lingering toxic cloud.
Probably. But the key thing is they recovered, got hit hard, but stayed in the fight. That resilience is huge.
Absolutely. Taking that kind of damage and bouncing back is critical in these harder missions.
Shows good preparation, good use of healing or armor kits, whatever they had. Mastery of the survival mechanics.
Okay, so Wilson terminated. That leads them to the final big objective in this run, Roosevelt Island.
The outcast stronghold. The objective. Stop Emmeline Shaw from escaping. She's heading for a boat on the East Shore.
Standard stop the boss escaping scenario then. Focus fire on Shaw.
Well, this is where it gets interesting. The source indicates they didn't primarily focus on Shaw herself.
Oh, why not, if she's the target?
Because, according to their intel or observation, she was already on the boat. The real targets became the big tanks on either side of the boat.
Ah, so disable the escape vehicle, not necessarily kill the person on the vehicle immediately, destroy the boat's systems or fuel.
Exactly. It shifts from a pure elimination objective to a destruction objective. You got to kill the boat, essentially, or its key components. That's the win condition.
That's a really important tactical distinction. Changes everything about where you direct your fire.
Fundamentally. Instead of suppressing Shaw, they needed to pour damage into those static, probably armored tanks.
And how do they get into position to do that? Any clever maneuvering?
Yeah, the source mentions a specific path. One player suggested going up on the wing of a crashed cargo plane nearby.
Using the terrain for elevation and cover. Smart.
And then moving along a quarantine barricade. It sounds like a route designed to bypass the main enemy concentration, avoid choke points, and get clean lines of sight onto those tanks.
Classic flanking maneuver using the environment. Very cool.
Okay, so let's circle back to that spiced-up skill they used effectively against Wilson. The sources give us some details on how it actually works, or at least how it's tracked.
Right. It wasn't just a simple buff. There were specific metrics attached.
Yes, several. Things like kill 5 hostiles during one use of spiced up. So rewarding burst activity.
Okay.
And also a cumulative goal. Kill enemies while using spiced up, 50 total kills needed over time.
So it encourages repeated use.
Yeah.
And leveling it up.
Mention leveling it 3 times, then 5 times. Standard progression. But here's the really interesting part.
Oh, what?
There seems to be a hidden, or at least not obvious, defensive aspect. A player found that when the skill level is at 0,
0. Like before you've leveled it up, or maybe when it's depleted.
the source implies when the charge or level is at 0, perhaps after use or if you haven't built it up yet, it gives a grace period, an extra chance if you take what would normally be lethal damage.
Whoa, okay. Like a get-out-of-jail-free card, but only when the skill is effectively empty.
Sort of, which is counterintuitive, right? You'd normally use a skill like that when it's fully charged for maximum offensive benefit.
But knowing this, you might pop it early, even with 0 charge, just as insurance, especially before a dangerous engagement.
Exactly. It turns what seems like a temporary damage boost into a potential one-time survival tool. That's a massive piece of tactical knowledge, especially for high-difficulty content like strongholds where you can get downed instantly.
That's fascinating. Knowing those hidden mechanics is key.
Right.
Okay, so after all these missions, the control points, the convoy chase, Wilson, Roosevelt Island, they look at the stats, right? End of mission report.
They did. And focused on accuracy scores, which led to some interesting observations.
How so? Big differences between players.
Huge difference. One player had, well, pretty terrible accuracy. 2 hits out of 25 shots fired, like really low.
Ouch.
While their partner was incredibly efficient, 55 hits out of 67 shots, very high accuracy.
Okay, massive variance. And that sparked a discussion about the stats themselves.
Yeah, it immediately made them question the value of the accuracy stat in isolation. They all agreed on what was missing.
Which way?
Context. They said the scoreboard really needs to add total shots fired by each player.
That makes perfect sense. Without knowing the denominator, the total number of shots fired, the accuracy percentage is almost meaningless, isn't it?
Totally. The 2 for 25 player might have barely fired their weapon, maybe suppressed mostly, or used skills. The 55 for 67 player was clearly landing shots, but maybe fired way less overall than someone spraying and praying with, say, 200 hits out of 1,000 shots.
Right. You can't tell who was more effective or contributed more damage just from the accuracy ratio. Someone with low accuracy but high volume might be doing more work overall.
Precisely. It points to a flaw in how performance is measured, or at least presented. You need that total shots number to properly evaluate combat efficiency. Are you a careful marksman or a high-volume suppressive fire type? Both can be valuable, but the current stats don't tell the full story.
It's a great point about data needing context.
Yeah.
Just like in real life, right? Stats without context can be misleading.
Always. And speaking of context, the sources also threw in some of those random, colorful bits of chatter again.
Like what?
Finding shiny monkey marbles, apparently, and some other, well, let's just call them unique operational phrases that probably wouldn't make sense out of context.
Keeps things lively, I suppose. Part of the team dynamic. Hashtag tag tag outro. Well, that was quite the journey. We went from fairly straightforward control points to chasing those maddeningly elusive supply convoy.
Yeah, the logistical nightmare part.
Right. And then escalated sharply into major assaults. Jefferson Plaza, Roosevelt Island. All while uncovering these weird quirks in skill mechanics and even questioning the performance stats themselves.
And I think the big takeaway for you, the listener, is that Blueprint for Success isn't just about aiming well. It's about understanding the system.
Knowing about the convoy credit delays, figuring out workarounds like the pooped gun drop.
And uncovering hidden mechanics, like that grace period on the spiced up scale when it's at 0 charge. You've got to master the game's rules, not just the shooting.
Absolutely. And that final point about the stats really stuck with me. The players realizing they couldn't judge their performance properly without the total shocks metric. It highlights how crucial having the right data is.
If the core metric is incomplete, your whole assessment is skewed.
So here's something to think about. What's the missing metric in your world? What crucial piece of data isn't being tracked or presented in your daily work, your projects, whatever it is?
Yeah.
That, if you had it, would completely change how you understand your own performance or efficiency.
What context are you missing?
Something to mull over.